Hi everyone, it is me, and we're here to read another epic tale from our collection. I'll put the playlist at the end of this video, and and you can go check it out. We've done Japan, we've done Africa, we've done Ireland, and today we're gonna do Native American myths and tales. And we're going to just read something at random. Let's go with how the deer got his horns. Even though they're really antlers, but okay. So, my camera can pick a color it wants to be. Okay. Let's see. Long ago in the beginning, deer had no horns. His head was smooth like a doe's. But does are deer. But okay. Now, deer was a very fast runner, but rabbit was a famous jumper. So the animals used to talk about it and wonder which would go farther in the same time. They talked about it a great deal. They decided to have a race between the two, and they made a pair of large antlers to be given to whoever could run the faster. Oh, man. You guys know jackalopes, right? Isn't that what they're called? Jackalope? The rabbit with the antlers that's like a cryptid. Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway. So they made the antlers. The winner was going to get them. Okay. Deer and rabbit were to start together from one side of a thicket, go through it, and then turn and come back. The one who came out of the thicket first was to receive the horns. On a certain day, all the animals were there. They put the antlers down on the ground to mark the starting point. Everyone admired them, but Rabbit said, "I don't know this part of the country. I want to look through the bushes where I am to run." So the rabbit went into the thicket and stayed a long time. He was gone so long that the animals suspected he was playing a trick. They sent a messenger after him. Right in the middle of the thicket, they found Rabbit, gnawing down the bushes and pulling them away to make a clear road for himself. The messenger came back quietly and told the animals. When Rabbit came back, they accused him of cheating. Rabbit said no, but at last they all went to the thicket and found the road he had made. Therefore the animals gave the antlers to Deer, saying that he was the better runner. This is why deer have antlers, and because Rabbit cut the bushes down, he is obliged to keep cutting them down, as he does to this day. Rabbit began singing the same song, dancing nearer to the field while all the wolves stamped their feet. He sang the song again, dancing still nearer the edge of the field. The fourth time he sang it, while the wolves were stamping their feet as hard as they could, Rabbit made one jump off and leapt through the long grass. The wolves raced after him, but Rabbit ran for a hollow stump and climbed inside. When the wolves got there, one of them put his head inside, but Rabbit hit him on the eye and pulled his head out. The others were afraid to, so they went away and left Rabbit in the stump. Why does the story end like that? It could have just ended with them saying, "And so they cut down grass to this day." What was that? What was the end piece? That was so random. Okay. Anywho, I love the ongoing theme in Native American mythology of rabbits being trickster spirits, because I think we don't get that in the rest of the world. We think of rabbits as like demure, pure, innocent, shy, like passive creatures. But then like the Native Americans are seeing rabbits like jackrabbits, like there's bigger rabbits, right? So they're seeing this like trickstery. They're all into about shenanigans. Like, I love that. And I loved the little like toss and nod to the jackalope. Because if he had gotten the horns, he would be like that cryptid that you see. That was cute. That was cute! Okay, let's read another one. Let's see. The Enchanted Moccasins. Ooh. Okay. Let's read it. Also, if you want to help me get a better camera with a higher quality, book a reading with me on Facebook and help me buy a new camera. Okay. The Enchanted Moccasins. There once lived a little boy all alone with his sister in a very wild, uninhabitable country. They saw nothing but beasts and birds, the sky above them and the earth beneath them. There were no human beings besides themselves. The boy often retired to think in lone places and the opinion was formed that he had supernatural powers. It was supposed that he would perform some extraordinary exploits, and he was called Anwe Bamondung. Ooh, that is hard. Okay. And he was called Anwe Bamondung. That sounds African. Okay. Or he that carries a ball on his back. As he grew up, he was impatient to know whether there were other beings near them. She replied that there was, but that they lived in a remote distance. There was a large village of hunters and warriors. Okay, so hang on, pause. Already we've been lied to in this story because we were told that this brother and sister were all alone and on their own and were the only people. But now the sister's like, oh yeah, there were tons of other people, but they live far away. Sorry about it. Okay. Let's see. She replied that there were, but there was a large village of hunters and warriors. Being now well grown, he determined to seek his fortune and asked her to make him several pairs of moccasins to last him on the journey. With this request, she complied. Then taking his bow and arrows, and his war club, and a little sack containing his nawapo, or traveling victuals, he immediately set out on his journey. He traveled on, not knowing exactly where he went. Hills, plains, trees, rocks, forests, meadows spread all before him. Sometimes he killed an animal, sometimes a bird. Birds aren't animals. The deer often started in his path. He saw the fox, the bear, and the groundhog. The eagles screamed above him. The ducks chattered in the ponds and lakes. He lay down and slept when he was tired, and he rose up when he was refreshed. Okay, so he painted with all the colors of the wind. I see how this is going. At last he came to a small wigwam, and on looking into it, discovered a very old woman sitting alone by the fire. As soon as he saw the stranger, as soon as she saw the stranger, she invited him in, and thus addressed him. My poor grandchild, I suppose you are one of those who seeks for the distant village from which no person has ever returned. Unless your guardian is more powerful than the guardian... Let's see, hang on, I'm just trying to get myself more light. Unless your guardian is more powerful than the guardian of your predecessors, you too shall share a similar fate of theirs. Be careful to provide yourself with the Azhebagunan, the bones they use in the medicine dance, without you cannot succeed, okay? After she had spoken, she gave him the following directions on his journey. When you come near to the village which you seek, you will see in the center a large lodge in which the chief of the village, who has 2 daughters, resides. Before the door you will see a great tree which is smooth and destitute of bark. On this tree, about the height of a man from the ground, a small lodge is suspended, in which these 2 daughters dwell. It is here so many have been destroyed. Be wise, my grandchild, and abide strictly by my directions. The old woman then gave him the medicine bones, which would cause his success. Placing them in his bosom, he continued his journey, till at length he arrived at the sought-for village. And as he was gazing around him, he saw both the tree and the lodge of which the old woman had mentioned. Immediately he bent his steps for the tree, and approaching, he endeavored to reach the suspended lodge, but all his efforts were in vain, for as often as he attempted to reach it, the tree began to tremble, and soon shot up so that the lodge would be hard to reach. Okay, rude. Foiled as he was in his attempts, he thought of his guardian, and changed himself into it, that of a small squirrel. Dope. Love a squirrel. So that he might accomplish his design. He then mounted the tree in quest for the lodge. After climbing for some time, he became fatigued and panted for breath. But remembering the instructions that the old woman had given him, he took from his bosom one of the medicine bones and thrust it into the trunk of the tree on which he sat. In this way, he quickly found relief, and as often as he became fatigued, he repeated this. But whenever he came near the lodge and attempted to touch it, the tree would again shoot up as before, and place the lodge beyond his reach. At length, the bones being exhausted, he began to despair, for the earth had long since vanished from his sight. Summoning all resolution, he determined to make another effort to reach the object of his wishes. On he went, yet as soon as he came near the lodge and attempted to touch it, the tree again shook. But by now it had reached the arch of heaven and could go no higher. So he now entered the lodge and beheld the two sisters sitting opposite each other. He asked their names. The one on the left hand called herself Azabi, and the one on the right, Nagambi. These really sound African. Maybe, I know this is Native American, but, what tribe is this? This is interesting. Okay. And I'm sure I'm butchering the names, but, Whenever he addressed the one on his left hand, the tree would tremble. Oh, on his left hand. I was like, how little are they? Okay. The tree would tremble as before and settle down to its former position. But when he addressed the one on the right hand, it would again shoot upwards as before. When he thus discovered that, by addressing the one on his left hand, the tree would descend. He continued to do so until it had resumed its former position. Then, seizing his war club, he addressed the sisters. You, who have caused the death of so many of my brothers, I will now put an end to, and thus have revenge for the numbers you have destroyed. As he said this, he raised his club and laid them dead at his feet. Oh, wow, okay. He then descended, and learning that the sisters had a brother living with their father, who would pursue him for the deed he had done. How did he learn that? Okay. He set off at a random, not knowing whether he went. Okay. Soon after, the father and mother of the young women, visited their residence and found their remains. They immediately told their son, Mojekuis, that his sisters had been slain. He replied, the person who has done this must be the boy that carries the ball on his back. I will pursue him and have revenge for the blood of my sisters. It is well, my son, replied the father. The spirit of your life grants you success. I counsel you to be wary in this pursuit. It is a strong spirit who has done this injury to us, and he will try to deceive you in every way. Above all, avoid tasting food till you succeed, for if you break your fast before you see his blood, your power will be destroyed. Okay, spoiler alert. I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. Let's see. His son instantly set out in search of the murderer, who, finding he was closely pursued by the brother of the slain, climbed up in one of the tallest trees and shot forth his magic arrows. Oh, now they're magic? Okay. Oh, we did say that he was, had powers at the beginning. Okay. Finding that this pursuer was not turned back by his arrows, he renewed his flight. And when he found himself hard-pressed, and his enemy close behind him, he transformed himself into the skeleton of a moose that had been killed, whose flesh had come off from his bones. He then remembered the moccasins which his sister had given him, which were enchanted. Taking a pair of them, he placed them near the skeleton. Go, he said to them, to the end of the earth. And now we get into the enchanted moccasins again. Okay, because don't forget, that's the name of this story. The moccasins left him, and their tracks remained. Mujikuis at length came to the skeleton of the moose. He then perceived that the track he had long been pursuing did not end there, so he continued to follow it up till he came to the end of the earth, where he found only a pair of moccasins. Mortified that he had been outwitted by following a pair of moccasins instead of the actual object of his revenge, he bitterly complained, resolving not to give up the pursuit, and to be more wary and wise in scrutinizing signs. He then called to mind the skeleton he met on his way, and concluded that it must be the object of his search. He retraced his steps towards the skeleton, but found to his surprise that it had disappeared, and that the tracks of Anwe Bamongdong, or he who carried the ball, were in another direction. He now became faint with hunger, and resolved to give up the pursuit. But when he remembered the blood of his sisters, he determined again to pursue. The other, finding he was closely pursued, now changed himself into a very old man with 2 daughters, who lived in a large lodge in the center of a beautiful garden, which was filled with everything that could delight the eye or was pleasant to the taste. He made himself appear so very old as to unable to leave the lodge, and his daughters to bring him food and wait on him. The garden had also the appearance of an ancient occupancy and was highly cultivated. His pursuer continued on till he was nearly starved and ready to sink. He exclaimed, "Oh, I will forget the blood of my sisters, for I am starving." But again he thought of the blood of his sisters, and again he resolved to pursue. and be satisfied with nothing but the attainment of his right to revenge. He went on till he came to the beautiful garden. He approached the lodge. As soon as the daughters of the owner perceived him, they ran and told their father that a stranger approached the lodge. Their father replied, "Invite him in, my children, invite him in." They quickly did so, and by the command of their father, they boiled some corn and prepared some savory foods. Mudjikuis had no suspicion of the deception. He was faint and weary with travel, and felt that he could endure fasting no longer. Without hesitancy, he partook heartily of the meal, and in doing so was overcome. All at once he seemed to forget the blood of his sisters and even the village of his nativity. He ate so heartily as to produce drowsiness, and soon fell into a profound sleep. Anwe, that's our main character guy, watched his opportunity, and as soon as he found his slumbers sound, resumed his youthful form. He then drew the magic ball from his back, which turned out to be a heavy war club, and with one blow, he put an end to his pursuer, thus vindicated his title as the wearer of the ball. That was so random. That escalated so quickly, like all these stories keep doing. Suddenly, characters turn out to be way more powerful than we were told in the beginning. Like, that's wild. Also, an ongoing theme that we see in these stories is that, like, don't eat food when you're on a spiritual journey, because you'll be trapped in a spiritual realm, you'll be cursed, you'll be killed. Don't eat food from strangers. That was so random, but that's how this video series has been going. It is so quirky and weird and random, but I hope you enjoy it. I enjoy it. It's just so random. It's like, what am I supposed to glean from that story? It's just wild. Anywho, check out my links down below. Check out the link that should be popping up on the screen now. And watch the other epic tales, because they're really crazy. Goodbye.